Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
This is Scott Becker with the Becker Business and Becker Private Equity podcast. I'm thrilled today to have a very special guest with us. We've got somebody with us today who both is an Illinois state representative in the state of Illinois, in the state house, also a partner at Benesch Law, one of the great national law firms originally from Cleveland. And we'd love to talk about Bob's career, where he's most focused, what he's doing today. He comes to us highly recommended by a constituent in his district who just raves about Bob Morgan. Bob, take a moment and tell us a little bit about your career and how you got involved in politics and running for office. Talk us through that a little bit.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks for having me on. It's an honor for me to be here with you. This has been quite a professional journey for me. I started working in healthcare right after law school. I was hired by a consulting group out of Joliet with no healthcare background and was really thrown into this industry on a national basis, doing a lot of long-term care work, but also general acute care, learning the business, the legal, and the healthcare. And it was a crash course. I learned things over 20 years ago that I still use every day today. And I did that for a number of years, learned a lot about healthcare, went on to start working in Illinois state government in healthcare and had a variety of jobs as a healthcare lawyer, working eventually as the governor's healthcare lawyer under former Governor Quinn, general counsel at Department of Public Health, and had these really great experiences to be a part of building new things and the implementation of the Affordable Care Act in Illinois, understanding all the challenges in healthcare and healthcare funding systems in Illinois. Did that for a number of years, and then went to private law practice before deciding that I wanted to try and make a bigger difference in public service by running for office, and was elected, took office first in 2019. So I've been a state representative for the last 6, now going into years 7 and 8, as we just got sworn in a few days ago. And I've always really centered my world around healthcare, as you can hear, and do so in the legislature too. So it's a pleasure to be with you. Certainly have watched your career and all the things that you've done, including with this podcast. So thanks for having me.
No, Bob, we're so excited to visit with you. So take me back a couple moments, because you mentioned a couple different names, Bob Quinn, Robert Quinn, who was the governor for a while, what I would say is he was a reformer, progressive, but a really, and that may not be exactly my politics, but he was a uniquely, truly a believer in what he was doing and a truly good person, was my impression of Governor Quinn. Is that a fair assessment of Governor Quinn? I always thought he was a really tried to do the right thing, whether you agree with him or not. He was very much a trying to do the right thing type of person.
Oh, absolutely. I had really fortunate opportunity to work with Pat and be in his office and to see the things he did. When I think about the Illinois governors, most people hear Illinois governors and they think really negative things. They think about some of our worst actors like Blagojevich and Ryan and others, and Rauner for that matter. And I see it all as kind of a spectrum. That what we went through with the Blagojevich trial and impeachment led us to Pat Quinn. And Pat Quinn was the governor we needed at the time because he was as honest comes. And he served as best he could. I think there were a lot of things we could have done better. He could have done better. But that's not really the point. That was what Illinois needed at the time. And then Illinois decided we wanted a businessman as governor. We elected Rauner. And then we saw how that could turn poorly. And so we decided we wanted a progressive businessman like J.B. Pritzker. And so Governor Pritzker for the last 7 years has led our state in a different way. And so it's just, you always got to look at this in the big picture. And Quinn did a great job. I think Pritzker is doing an amazing job as governor, especially as it really aligns. We started the same time, him and I. And so we've been able to do a lot of great work together.
And talk for a moment there. First of all, I called them Robert Quinn, Bob Quinn by second, but Pat Quinn, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Brings me back now. And then you also worked with Sherilyn Mura in the Mura Group and
Yeah,
back in the
Sherilyn
day.
Muir. That's right. So Sherilyn was the first person to hire me, and it was the coincidence. I grew up in the south suburbs, so I was living back at home after law school, and there was this job in Joliet, which is about 20 minutes from where I grew up, and the commute was great. But more than that, it was purely just right place, right time, because Sherilyn and Muir Consultants taught me so much, not just about healthcare, but also about myself. Right, when you're in school, when you're studying and taking exams and going to law school, you don't really learn as much about yourself and about what you're going to be like as an adult. But Muir Consultants and having that job taught me a lot about my own skill set, my ability to work with clients, to understand how to listen to what the client needed, and to help somebody get to have the difference between the answer of a no or a no but. And I think that makes a big difference.
And take us to JB because JB is
Yeah.
complicated because and I'll give you my perspective from a very far distance. Is his public persona is complicated. People love and they hate him. The people that I know that work for him, one of my closest friends works for him currently. The people that I've known that have worked with him for a long time, either there or at his venture firm, are just huge fans of him as a person, and talk a little bit about that because so many times these politicians end up being lightning rods on one side or the other, but the people that actually deeply know them see them very differently and like them a great deal. Talk about JB a little bit because I've heard so much from people that know him closely, like a mutual friend of ours and others that really rave about him as a person. Help me out there and talk about JB for a second.
Sure. No, that's all true. JV and I met just under 10 years ago, right before he announced for governor, and we hit it off right away. I mean, I've spoken with the governor and been with the governor a number of times over the years, and I don't think I've ever left an interaction with him where I didn't learn something more about him, something more personal. He's really, really good as just a genuine person. And that I think some people might just presume that's not the case, but he's incredibly personable. He's really smart, works really, really hard, and really, really good at listening and trying to tackle complicated problems. So I enjoy very much working with him. And the role of governor of any state as any executive, it is challenging in ways I will never understand. And we've tackled some really big things in the last 6 years, and I know he's got a lot of other big ideas for this coming 2 year session.
Thank you very, very much. And Bob, tell us, what are you most focused on and excited about in this next couple year session in the state of Illinois? Where are you most focused and excited?
Well, like I said, I really focus a lot of my time on healthcare. So the committees I serve on, the bills I introduce, the issues I really get involved with tend to really circle around healthcare. And over the last 2.5 years, also focused, though related or somewhat different, gun violence prevention. Our mutual friend, myself, having been at the Highland Park Parade 2.5 years ago, really sparked this trajectory where I became one of the leaders in the legislature on gun violence legislation. And that really, in many ways, is healthcare. That's mental health, that's trauma supports, that's physical supports and health systems and recovery from shootings, and a lot of healthcare related pieces. So in the next year, we've got some big issues, got big challenges. Of course, the federal level, and I know you and the podcast have talked about these types of things that are coming down from the Trump administration, that incoming Trump administration, that we don't have a lot of certainty about. And I think that uncertainty will impact our health system. And I'm going to be working on that, and things from our Medicaid reimbursement systems. I spend a lot of time in healthcare insurance and health insurance. So I'll be working on that. I have a bill on artificial intelligence as it relates to health insurance. So I'll be spending this next year, again, just a lot of healthcare. There's so many people that need help, and we can do so much better with our healthcare, and I'll be focused on that.
100%. And so I'll ask you the tough question.
Please.
And you don't have to answer this if you're uncomfortable with it, Bob. So if we had a 3-on-3 basketball game and I put Dr. Oz, RFK, and JB Pritzker on one team, and I put Scott Downing, Jason Grace, maybe Lisa Madigan, Jake Silk on the other team, who wins that game? No.
I think the healthcare Benesch team is going to destroy this 3-on-3, and I hope my partners hear that because I think very highly of their skills.
Those are very, very good people.
I know you
One
know
time
them
we're partners of mine, Jason Grace, Scott Downing, Jake. So like just really, really, really good people, a great group of people at your law firm, the Benesch firm. And so let me ask you one more question. You've had this fantastic career sort of at the intersection of politics and law. You're in healthcare. You're one of the most well thought of people that I know. People rave about you as a person. What advice would you give to emerging leaders, Bob? What advice do you give to emerging leaders?
That's a great question. I feel very fortunate and privileged for the experience I've had and hope to continue to be a part of. And I think the combination of good fortune meeting the hard work, really having that nexus. There's some people believe they're just lucky and right place, right time. Others believe they're only doing what they did because they worked so hard. And I really think that the only piece of that dynamic and that formula you can control is the hard work. You can't control when an opportunity is going to present itself. You have no idea when. It could be today, could be a year or 10 years from now, professionally, personally. But the best you can do is prepare yourself for that with the hard work. And that's not just billing the most hours. It's not just studying the hardest, having the best briefs, winning the best trials. It is about the entirety of your being in the sense of your reputation, right? You and I know a lot of people in this industry who are really smart, but have really crappy reputations because they're not the greatest people. And that big picture of doing your best to work hard and work hard about who you are and your identity and your integrity, that will pay off 100 times out of 100.
I'm going to give you a follow-up question to that because one of the mutual people we know is a guy named Joe Gutman, who's one of the unusually gifted, but also giving people. What do you learn from interacting with people like that? Is that inspiring? Does that encourage you? I mean, just take a moment on that. We'll use him as an example of someone who's incredibly talented, incredibly giving, grew up with his father was either a taxi driver or a truck driver, and worked hard, but also smart, but tremendous on the relationship side and the encouragement side. What do you learn from people like that?
We are living in a world that the instant gratification is for who's most bombastic, offensive, loud. And that doesn't really matter because all of us have a finite time here. Speaker of the Illinois House gave everybody a book called The Infinite Game. And the idea that my seat in the Illinois House will be there long after I'm gone. My role as a partner at Benesch will be succeeded by somebody smarter, better than me. And we are just placeholders in this moment. So our job in the infinite game is to move the ball forward a little bit so that our future, whether it's our children or successors at the firm or successor legislators, have a better world that they are inheriting. And when I think of somebody like Joe, or the number of people you and I think of that are the most altruistic and giving, that's what matters. That is what people will remember. And that's what we should all try really, really hard to block out the loud craziness on any number of social media platforms, because it's about the institutions of our relationships and the ways that we help to others that's going to make the difference. That when I'm done on this planet, I want people remembering that way less the legislation I passed, but about the things I did as a person to help someone else, because we're paying it forward. That's when I think about Joe, I think about that. And you and I are always trying to espouse that. But in the world that we live in, I think it's hard sometimes to remember that what matters is what you give to others and not the other way around.
Thank you. I think you're a great reflection of that. I think he's a great reflection of that. I am so thankful, Bob, for you taking the time to visit with us today. To me, it's a real special treat to get to visit with you. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. What a pleasure, and give my regards to some of the mutual that we know. Just a great pleasure visiting your continued success in your political career. I hope that at some point you'll be running for governor, not too far in the distant future, but we're looking forward to it, Bob. Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it. I'll be on anytime, but hopefully I see you around town, and wishing you and all your listeners just a great day.